at the top, we had a track by Bear Cubs called Yeah, Never Know. Tom, amazing song. Thanks for sharing. And we also had a song by Fortet called Pyramid off the album Pink. I remember buying that LP in a record store not too far from here that doesn't exist anymore called Highgate Continental. And it reminds me of my friend Dylan Hindle.
Shout out Dylan.
Yeah, shout out Dylan. He's actually probably helped us quite a lot with this pod by giving us some feedback. So thank you, Dylan. That song reminds me of you. Tom, we've touched on before, like how you got into electronic music. You were a hip hop kid growing up, and that's probably what you and your brother Ted listened to like throughout high school. But you sort of started to move towards a little bit more electronic.
Yeah. I'd say my origins are in hip hop.
Yeah.
And me and the boys that I grew up with in Scarborough especially listened to a lot of Biggie, Tupac, Big L, Nas, Mobb Deep.
Yeah.
It was very much 90s hip hop around there. Not even too much Dre or Slim. It was real 90s, 95, mid-90s. And the real thug stuff.
Yep.
Absolutely loved it. And that was just the vibe. And everyone used to skateboard a lot. We used to cruise around, catch lots of buses. So it was kind of the scene where that type of music fit really nicely. And I suppose it's as I grew up and went travelling and got more into the party scene that I started to understand electronic music a little bit more. And the mentioned Darcy O'Brien, who's my, philosophical compass and open-minded friend, he's highly into his music, and he would always play me the freshest stuff. And so my music taste was always evolving, and we lived together in a house in Scarborough.
Yep. What was the name of the house?
It was in Alga Street.
Yep.
And we had a German neighbour called Tomus.
Yes.
And Tomus was German, proper 90s German.
Yeah.
Authentic rave scene. And so then he kind of used to always just discriminate and show us the way into electronic music. And everything I'd play on this show, he would think is not trash, but he would classify it as...
But no, that's not real.
Yeah, it's not techno, it's not house, it's not nothing. That's not it. That's electronic dance music. That's all like EDM. And so I'm not good with classifications, but we went on a great little journey into electronic music, and now it's certainly my stock genre. And I've actually been thirsty for a little bit of hip hop and some of what I'm expecting out of this season and out of this process where I articulate my taste to you all is to find some good new hip hop that's been sitting under my nose all the time, but I just haven't seen it yet. So I'm really looking forward to that process.
Yeah, man. I think the best way someone explained to me, I'm forgetting who, but I remember the conversation, like how to listen to electronic music is that it's actually kind of an earned listen. So, people will be like, oh, it doesn't change or it just sounds the same. I was like, no, there's a lot of subtleties in there, and it takes time. It's like a bit of you have to earn the drop when it comes to house, when it comes to techno, and you got to be patient.
So, I've got an experience that speaks to that in a big way, and it was after the Derby this year. We played Freo, and we had a win. It was our first Derby win in a long time. And that night, the boys had organised to go to Stum. Which is, I think he's an Australian artist. I think he's out of Melbourne. But he's a techno producer. He's you'll have to help me with the classification. But it was like I've gone back into an old German rave. It was a cadence I hadn't heard. It was very minimal, and it was really in your face, You know what it's like with techno, it's booming.
Yeah.
And anyway, it was the first time I'd entered the scene. It was at Villa in Northbridge, double story. Yeah. And it was the first time I'd entered the scene in a familiar scene with techno being the main show, and I just slipped into the vibe of the song. And then from hip hop, and I get that concert, I finally found my techno cadence with my little brother right next to me, like sort of waving his finger around in this style that made me be like,
shout out Ted, man.
That's what you do. all right, no worries. Like,
and you fell into it
techno's
straight away.
sick. Yeah,
you were
yeah.
happy with the finger wave and locked in.
Yeah, and it was one of the. I'll look back fondly on that night for a long, long time, and I think I'll even drop in a little bit of Storm at the end of this show when the music sonic is really peaking.
Yeah,
for you to understand, and you'll know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. I reckon it's time to go to a couple of tracks.
Mate, take us away.